Hey, what's going on? Welcome to The Doug Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and in this episode, I talk about 6 things that I learned about making money online. And this is a special episode because I have a guest host, my good friend Ron Stefanski. We've both been working online for a few years. We started, doing this stuff on the side, and we actually met each other online, not in person, but we met each other early on in our journeys when we were, actually not making much money at all. And then over time, we've gone to, do this full time. So we just have a candid conversation. And quick note, Ron blogs over at the 1 Hour Professor, so be sure to check that out. Additionally, he's been on a couple other episodes, so look through the podcast episodes. And if you haven't listened to those, then you should. They're very good episodes. So let's get to the conversation now. The 6 things we learned about making money online. Hey, what's going on? It's Doug Cunnington here, and I'm here with Ron. So how you doing today, Ron?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
Doing really good. Doing really well today. I'm caffeined up. I have a few interviews to do. So
oh, you didn't tell me that part.
Yeah. Okay. I'm feeling pretty good. Now, you've been on the show a few times, but can you just do a super quick intro just so people kind of know what you're all about if they haven't heard the other episodes yet?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first off, thanks for having me back. Appreciate it. Always love to be here. My name is Ron Stefanski. I've been at this, I guess you could call it online business, internet marketing game for it's probably been about 12 years total, including my corporate job. I've actually been doing my own entrepreneur stuff for about 8 years of that. I think is about that number. But yeah, I started a website or multiple websites over the years, have failed multiple times, but I have found a lot of success with a lot of hard work. And now I basically have a portfolio of websites. And one of the things that I do that's, I think, different than other people is that I log all of my income on income reports over at onehourprofessor.com. I log all the income on all of my websites and talk about that every month and talk about all the different things. So, that's pretty much my intro.
Cool. And if people haven't checked out the other 2 episodes, search for it. I'm sure you could find it. I'll put links somewhere in the show notes, but you could find it if you try. And today we're going to talk about 6 things that we learned making money online. Now, before we get to it, we're going to have a little small talk. I haven't chatted with Ron in a couple weeks, but it sounds like you've had an eventful couple weeks. So what happened, man?
So and I'm sure that this, because I was recently on your podcast, I'm sure this is completely unrelated and just bad luck. But basically what ended up happening was I believe the plugin is called Contact Form 9, which is super, super popular out there. And I have a process. I have a lot of processes in my business. And one of those processes is every month, at the beginning of the month, I'll update all the plugins for all of my websites. I do it all one time for all websites at one time, make sure I check everything, and all that. So in between my last update and, this last month, there was a vulnerability that came out onto that plugin. And basically I had some, not all, but some of my websites that are in my portfolio get hacked, which was a miserable experience. I haven't slept much. That's why I kind of look a little, it's a little shaggy here. I'm dressing a little sloppy, wearing a hat, because I'm just it's been a rough week trying to figure this stuff out. And it was pretty brutal. So basically what was happening was my hacked websites, there was malware on them. And what was occurring was that the individual was able to get admin access rights to 5 of my websites. They were able to get into my Google Webmaster Tools or my Search Console. They were able to submit sitemaps on behalf of my website, and I was getting pages indexed in Google that were very unsavory pages. For instance, at one point, if you, and don't do this if you're watching, but if you actually putting into Google child Pornhub, I was on that front page for one of my websites, which is terrible. Not a place you want to be. So I basically worked with my developer. He was having a really hard time figuring it out. I went on and hired like a different developer, a little more expensive. He actually figured it out yesterday night. So, but yeah, it was pretty brutal. Like one of my websites had over 100,000 index pages on Google that were all crap. And basically what would happen was people would see it in the search results, and they would click on the search result. It would bring them to another website. And then guess what? That website had malware. So it was just infecting all the computers. So it was like, it was the first time I've ever dealt with it. And to talk about why it happened or how to not have that happen, use WordFence. I know that that's a free plugin. I actually use WebArx, ARX. I got it on an AppSumo deal. It's really good too. But no matter what, even if you have a really small website, use it because it blocks everything. And I also found out that if somebody hacks into one website, they can actually hack into all the websites on that server. And I have a dedicated server. So like, I didn't know this stuff. I've never done it. I usually have the security, but I didn't for this one website because I'm like, it's new. No one's even going to find it. They found it. So,
oh man.
Yeah, it was awful. It was truly awful. It's been a rough one, but yeah, I've been fighting and trying to get pages de-indexed from Google, pages that I don't want in there. And now that we got this part taken care of, I'm gonna basically the solution is you get rid of the malware. You have to hire a specialist for it. You get rid of it, and then you have to go to Google and resubmit your sitemap, and then edit your robots.txt file. This gets a little technical, but edit that file to make it so that the URLs that are getting indexed no longer get indexed. So a huge headache, but a good learning experience. It's something I may write do a video or write up something, because it was like, wow, like I've never dealt with that. So it was miserable.
That sounds terrible. Yeah, man. Do you do like offsite backups?
I do actually. You showed me one of them. So I use SiteGround. Big fan of SiteGround. They actually do a backup every day, which is awesome. And you could have, in theory, yes. If your question is, could you have rolled it back? Yes. But then the problem was it was in one of the files that it would have impacted would have been a file that basically would have deleted all the posts that we posted. And I post between all of my websites, I don't even know, 15 to 20 posts a week. So it's like, that would be a lot of work. So yes, in theory, if you don't have much, you could have done that. But yeah, I use SiteGround does it. And then I also use, I think it's Manage WP was the other one that you showed me too, which is awesome, by the way. Thanks for the intro to that. I also back up there because the redundancy I think is a good thing, just in case my host fails me in some way. So.
Yep. Totally agree. And I think, so Manage WP, that's what I use, and it's offsite backups. It's really easy to like restore if something happens. And like, I'm not, at least currently right now, I'm not publishing as much as you're talking about, but yeah, you could have potentially restored back from like 15 days or something, whatever makes sense, but you'd lose potentially 30 articles that you'd have to like redo and have someone publish or whatever.
Yeah, so. and I could have like copied all the code and then pasted into other sheets and then done the rollback and then put it all. But it was just like, let's try to find it. That'll be easier. I think the path to least resistance, and it worked. Thankfully, the guy that I just got is awesome. So yeah,
man. Well, I'm glad you're figuring it out. And
thank you.
Yeah, that's terrible. Luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had any issues like that, but I've seen some friends with malware, hence that's why I'm like, okay, I could do backups and at least, I'm not doing constant updates. So anyway.
Yeah. Like I said, the biggest thing, I know WordFence is one of them that's free out there. WebArx is the one that I use. I don't even know if that's free or not. I got it on the AppSumo deal, but no matter how small your website is, if it's on a server, just put it on there. It does, even if you don't intend on making it big or you're thinking, it'll just be a small project, just do it. Trust me. It's much easier than dealing with what I just dealt with.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's get into the topic for today. And it is 6 things that we've learned about making money online over the last few years. And I know when I first got started, I really didn't know anything about anything. And it all sounded sort of scammy, to be honest with you, because even a nice guy like Pat Flynn was telling stories and when I checked out his income reports, I thought, this is crazy. I think he was making like $50K a month around the time when I started following him. And I was like, that's insane. Like, that's completely insane. And, you know, it's mostly passive, at least from his perspective. So I was like, this is crazy. And there was so much that I didn't know at the time. And I've learned very slowly. And I assume right now I'm just as ignorant, just in different ways.
You don't know what you don't know. Right?
Exactly.
That's true.
So number one on our list is, it's conceptually easy, but it's a lot harder than you think it's going to be, especially once you get started. So Ron, what do you think of this specific point here?
I completely agree. I mean, to kind of, talk about what my experience with that, I remember I found Pat Flynn too. I think a lot of people, especially when you're first starting, you find Pat Flynn, you just end up there somehow. I don't even know how it happened. And I remember I was looking at it, I was like, I can crush this little guy. Cause you got to remember, I came from the corporate experience, right? Like I had a lot of digital marketing. I was a digital marketing manager by trade. Like I was like, I can crush this guy. I know exactly what to do, blah, blah, blah. And I created my first website, and I was like, as you're saying, I conceptually understood everything. I completely failed though. So it's like, even someone who was experienced, and I basically had to relearn a lot of different things. So like, I completely agree with you. I think that most people, I also thought it was scammy. I absolutely did. I thought it was scammy. Then I found him, and I was like, wow, this guy actually shares income reports. He's doing his thing. And he inspired me, obviously, to share my own. So like, when I did it, it was like, yeah, this guy's, this actually looks legit. And then I tried it and failed. So like, it is easy to understand how it works, but it's all in the execution. 100% agree with you.
Yep. And just to like demonstrate like some of the very easy concepts, right? So we have a couple listed here. You can have an ad-based site, and that's kind of, that's sort of where you specialize, Ron, where you have informational content. You're showing AdSense or Media.net or some other ad network. Affiliate marketing, that's what I specialize in. So I have like product reviews, and people go there to get more information. So very simple. And then we could talk about, finding low competition keywords, the long tail, all these sexy sort of jargon, or buzzwords and jargon, so that you end up like, oh yeah, like I get it. And the funny thing is, I remember when I first started, I learned just enough so that I could like explain it to other people. And I thought I knew everything, right? So like, I could imagine what an asshole I sounded like at parties, right? Where I was like, oh, well, you just do this and that. And then of course someone could be like, well, are you doing that? Are you making any money? I'm like, well, no, I'm just getting started.
I laugh because this is seriously, Doug, this is exactly what I did. Like my 1 Hour Professor website that now, I focus with the income reports, but when I started it, I was like, I'm just going to create courses. And I actually do, this, but I'm not sure all the listeners do. I actually teach on the side. I'm a adjunct college professor at a few different, colleges, just part-time, because I enjoy it. And I was like, I'm just going to teach this stuff because I was already teaching it. Right. And like, I could teach the concepts just fine. So I like started out and did all that. And then it's like, honestly, I look back and it's like cringeworthy, like as to what the things I like said and like did. It's like, my God, because I wasn't I was talking like I knew everything. And I think a lot of people make this mistake. They talk like they think they know it because they listen to a podcast or a dozen podcasts. But then when you're actually practicing it, it's like, well, the proof is in the pudding, like make it actually happen. And until you're doing that, just stop. And yeah, just stop. So.
Indeed. So the next one that we're going to get to, number 2, is patience and consistency. And when we were first drafting up the list, I didn't put this on here. So Ron, do you want to take this since you sort of championed it?
So since I'm spearheading it, yeah. So basically, one of the things that I'm trying to be a little bit more active at Facebook groups. Doug and I were talking about this a minute ago, and one of the things that I keep seeing is people are saying, oh, I'm getting 5 people to my website a day, and at what point can I monetize? And they're thinking way too far ahead. So just in general, when it comes to making money online, it really is a marathon. This is not, I can't reiterate this enough. It's not something that's going to be good in a month, 3 months, 6 months. You might start seeing a little bit of decent progress. A year, you're going to maybe see like, in most cases, there's always outliers, but in most cases, you might see like a couple $100, usually. Like, I think that's pretty average. But I think the biggest thing is that as an individual, if you're getting into this and you're starting this, you need to be incredibly patient, incredibly consistent, and understand that there's a lot of hard work ahead of you to make this actually happen. I think that so many people they want to make those quick dollars, and they want to just like dive in and get into it. And for me, it's like, that's just not what this is. Like, I always tell people, expect to take at least a year and dive into this for a full year and really commit yourself for a full year before you see anything good. And usually people see a little bit of success before that, but I try to, brace them mentally, like, hey, you got to do this for the long haul. This can't be something that you're going to start, stop. So yeah, I think that's a big thing. And then and also I will say too, like, patience and consistency, one of the biggest parts to that is that if you're patient and consistent, you're working at it. And, let's say you have limited time though. Let's say you have a full-time job. There's nothing wrong with being patient and consistent and using someone else to write some of your content, for that whole year. That's fine. The point is just commit to having a budget for the website for the whole year. So.
And I could hop in and just repeat what you just said, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take a slightly different angle and talk about the consistency part where, we talk about, or you mentioned sticking with something for 1 year. And I want to emphasize to stick with a thing, right? So if you spend 1 month, like for 12 straight months or even 18 straight months, and you're like switching what you're working on, say you're going for drop shipping, you're going to do an AdSense site because you think, Ron's awesome and you loved his interview from before.
Obviously. Yeah.
And then you hear about some of the success stories from my students, and you see they're really doing well with affiliate marketing, or maybe you heard a podcast on drop shipping, fill in the blank, right? There's like a million of these different business opportunities, real estate, rental properties, blah, blah, blah. If you keep switching, you're just going to keep making like dumb beginner mistakes. For each one of the things, there may be some transference for a few areas, but trust me, if I was going to try to make a site like Ron does, or Ron make a site like I do, we would run into some issues, right? Because we don't know those mechanics, even though they're very closely related, super closely related. There's just a little bit of a learning curve for everything. And if you're brand new and you keep switching, you're just going to be frustrated. You will feel, it's natural to compare yourself to other people and all these case studies that we share. But really, if you're switching around, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So
yeah, completely 100% agree with you, Doug. I actually, when I first started, that was a mistake I made myself. I had my first website that I'm currently on, but then I tried all these different projects. And yeah, it's a pretty miserable thing to deal with. Like, what I always tell people is, if you're going to start something, it has to work. Think of it that way. Not, it might work. It has to work, and I have to give it at least a full year. That's a good way to kind of prepare yourself mentally, in my opinion. So.
Yep. And quick example, and then we'll move on to the next one. Previous guest, Chris Pearson, the founder of DIY Themes, instrumental in sort of the premium WordPress theme space, a decade ago, 13 years ago, something like that. He was talking about, I think this was after our interview even, I can't remember if we recorded it or what, but he was mentioning that like his projects seemed to be like 2 years before they start getting some traction. And then I thought back to my experiences, right? So whether it was like the first sites that I launched or my course or whatever, like it's all you could do to get a shippable product, whatever it is, in, a year, right? We're talking significant stuff, right? So not a small project. It takes a little while to build it. And then after that, you have to figure out how to market it. So whether it's SEO or whether it's email marketing or getting the word out or whatever, or even the keyword golden ratio, right? No one cared for the first couple, or first several months, maybe the first couple years even, but here in the last little bit, people are talking about it, right? Like if you go, this is interesting. If you go check the search volume for this made up thing that I've done, right? The keyword golden ratio is searched for a couple hundred times a month, which is kind of cool. Cause like we made it up, right? I just made it up. So
that's an awesome feeling.
Okay. Number 3, there are bad people and charlatans selling garbage, and they're all over the place. And it's hard to tell when you're first getting started who is who. So, Ron, did you run into any charlatan types when you were starting?
So that's the whole thing. Like even today, I don't see this very often, and I don't know if it's because I have blinders on. I see it in Facebook groups where people will comment, and they'll give advice, and I'll look at and I literally think, what the hell is he talking? Or what the hell are they talking about? Like that's just not good advice. I see that at times. I don't know if they're necessarily selling like courses, but I pretty much followed like Pat Flynn, and then I basically only focused on people who had big podcasts after that. So I didn't find a bunch of that, but yeah, I'd like to hear more about, what because I don't know, like I said, I've had the blinders on and I kind of went heads down after I started learning and just worked. So
Gotcha. So I generally followed the same like route that you mentioned where Pat would have someone on the podcast and then I would listen to their podcast and a bunch of little, jumping off points. Pat was the hub. So that's why we have like such a similar background and probably why we're talking right now. So some of the people that I ran into were like it was very recently, like on YouTube. So on YouTube, it's very tempting to have like a viral kind of video where you have a great headline, you're showing like the high level, just easy, like the most basic ideas, claiming that it's, making a ton of money and it's super easy. And actually this happened where I interviewed someone on my channel because we had like some overlap on a couple of topics. And then I think he was like basically, well, it's not a family friendly show, but I will save what I was about to say and just say he wasn't a nice guy. All right. So I'll put it that way. And then, I think he like went and looked at one of my videos on Amazon affiliate marketing, recreated, like the high level. I mean, he created his own video, but basically he had a way to spam his video, in some effective way where it got like a ton of views. He ranked over me like in the YouTube search and that sort of thing. Of course, he had like no idea of the topic. He was just like, oh, a lot of people are searching for that. I'm going to hop on, copy the ideas from one of Doug's videos and then, get a bunch of views on it, which he did. And he was selling, a bunch of, terrible courses. The other thing is like, one way to tell, right, is if you land on someone's site and it's just a landing page.
Yep. Agreed.
That's usually a bad sign. They're like, sign up and you could figure out, or I'll teach you how I'm doing all this affiliate marketing. I'm making $800 a day and they're on the beach or something like that. Like usually, like if it's just a squeeze page, which is a landing page where you can't really do anything, there's no other content, probably not a good sign. So that's one area. Another area I've seen a lot of is it's partially on YouTube, but another area is like the automated like website builders. So it would be like Amazon affiliate builder, like a store, right? It'll build a store for you, like automatically. You just put in the categories and it builds this whole store. Of course, you won't get any traffic. You have this store. And in some cases, the software is pretty cheap. Maybe it's $100 or something. And then in other cases, you may have to like pay a small amount for the software, but then ongoing hosting where they're, maybe like hosting it for you, but they're charging you a lot. So maybe they're charging you $25 a month or $50 a month or something like that. So it's just enough for them to make a lot of money at volume and you're getting some value because they're hosting your site, but it's way overpriced and generally your site's never going to work out. There's no like repeat customers, but they rope you in and they know like if they can keep you on for say 4 to 8 months, I'm just making that up. They're like, well, I made all the money I need from that one person. And then the other way they rope you in is generally it's a pyramid scheme, where they will then recruit you as one of their customers to recruit more people as an affiliate. So like you're going to make some money as an affiliate selling the same garbage that you just bought, which is terrible, right? So that's where the charlatans, garbage, and all that stuff comes into play.
Yeah, and you know what? And now that you're talking about it, it's really funny that you say this. So my wife is currently in Brazil, getting her green card and figuring all that out. But she just recently found a YouTube video that was like how this girl made $30,000 in a day selling makeup, something with makeup. I don't even remember what it, like a beauty blender or whatever. And then she came to me and she's like, Ron, we got to do this. And she's already creating a Shopify store and all this stuff. I mean, to her credit, she has the ability to use her social media to possibly push some customers. And so I was like, if you want to try it, go ahead. But I remember she was telling me, she was laughing because she's like, this guy creates videos and he's got this one that talks about like how to make $5,000 in an hour with no work. And I was like laughing. I'm like, that's her name, Toledo. I was like, that's laughable how ridiculous that is. I was like, if it sounds too easy, it is. So it's not costing a lot of money or anything. I'm backing up and I'm going to let her try something. Maybe it'll work with her social media, but like that is a good example. I just hit someone at the door. Don't even worry about that. That's a package. But that's a good example for sure of what you're talking about. And I didn't even think about it until you were just talking. It clicked in my head. So.
Yeah. And I think maybe it shifts like where the people are, right? So when we were starting up, there were, like these squeeze pages and there were like, Warrior special offers, like on the Warrior forum. Did you ever see the Warrior forum back in the day? A little bit.
I did see the Warrior forum. Yeah. I didn't spend much time there, but yeah.
Yeah, same here. I mean, when you read it, I was like, this is really weird. And this comes into like another area where like these people are influencers and then they will just push each other's products with like fake testimonials. So like there's maybe 10 or 15 people who are making a lot of money on these products, providing testimonials for other people. And then the products really suck. Now, some people out there may be thinking, well, Doug, you push some affiliate products and other people push your product. Well, we have like actual testimonials from actual people and there's just like too much information out there that's positive. And I only work with people that I know. So I'm definitely approached often to, push someone's course or product or whatever. And actually this happened recently. Someone was trying to pitch something to me and I was like, in general, the idea is okay, but I was like, I don't know who you are. You haven't even given me your last name here. Like, yeah. I don't know what the service is going to be like. How are you going to support the customers or students or whatever? And they then ignored my email. So I was like, well, I think I just proved my point.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. I'll recommend certain products, but like and Pat Flynn talks about this too, when you recommend a product, you're not just recommending the product. It's not that easy. You're actually kind of putting your reputation on the line. So the minute that that you recommend a product or a course or whatever, and it's garbage, people see that and then they're mad at you. So like that's, I'm the same way as you. Like I'll recommend things, sure, but I either use them myself or I've like really actually taken the time to go through it and make sure it's good stuff because I don't want to recommend crap. I don't want people to think I'm a jerk. So
yep, it totally does. I mean, you're affiliated with whatever company is paying you. So, I mean, it counts. Okay. So everybody watch out for the charlatans out there. And it's sometimes hard to tell, but I mean, generally, I think if someone is not here's a good example. If someone's not putting out a lot of free content where you kind of get to know them, I mean, that's sort of my like barometer at this point, because when I look at the people who I am, trying to maybe emulate, or at least I look up to on some level, they're putting out a lot of free content, a lot of value. So even the people who are not customers are getting a lot of value from them. So that's what I try and do personally.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Number 4 is passive income is not real. So, Ron, what do you think about this? We didn't discuss these last couple here at all.
Passive income, it is not, it can be real and it cannot be real, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But basically, the idea of like, I think at its full basis, the idea of like passive income, where you literally do nothing and collect money, is not real. And I say that because even if you have rental properties, people are like, well, if you have a rental property, it's completely passive income. Not true, because you have to either manage the property yourself or you have to have a property manager that you manage. So there's always some sort of work that goes into everything. It's never like passive income, is just going to come out of nowhere and then you never have to do anything to earn it. I think that there's a point to where after you've established in things, you can have real passive income, but there is something that, takes you to get to that point for sure.
Very good. Yeah. I don't have much more to add to that.
Stealing your thunder.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people have said similar things. Again, I'm not just going to repeat what you said, but the idea is like at some point you'll be able to relax a little bit, and like it is more of a maintenance situation versus a, constantly building. Now, you kind of run into an issue, I think, Ron and I, and we know other people, like ourselves, who get obsessed, and we like to build things and like to work on things. So it's a little bit of a vicious cycle where you keep looking for new stuff and different projects, and that's fine, right? Like we need to be stimulated and do interesting things and work on stuff that is new so that we can learn. But at the same time, it's like sometimes we don't know when to chill out. Especially, you were probably running on a lot of caffeine over the last couple of weeks dealing with this stuff. So you're like, go, go, go. And then once you finish and it's time to relax for a second, like you find something else to stress about, basically, right?
Always. Yeah, like I always do. I think that we're really similar in that way. Like I get bored. It's just I could, because I have a team in place and everything. I could coast and seriously not work for weeks on end if I wanted to. And I could and just answer emails. I guess that would be the work, and managing my people. Mm-hmm. I could do that, but I don't want to do that. I like the idea of just growing. And one thing I'll say is that with this passive income, maintenance is required, but there are times, and I know you experience with your moving, and my wife and I are renovating a house right now. So there are times when you can, I've taken days off, completely, I didn't even check my email until 9:00 at night, and business kept going. So.
And that is the great part, which leads us to number 5. Wait, passive income is kind of real. So as you're mentioning, perfect segue, Ron, by the way, as a guest host, that was wonderful. Basically, yeah, I moved. I took about a month mostly off. Now I worked a ton for about 2-3 weeks leading up to it, just to plan everything out and make sure I was in good shape to take that time off. But it was fine. And I mean, there are periods of time, like maybe if you're on vacation, for example. We don't like to do this, but I'm sure you've done it before, Ron. Like you're on vacation, you have your laptop and you're like, I'm gonna work for half a day. Like it's rainy outside or whatever. And you could take some time off from your vacation to actually do a little work. But in those cases, like when you're moving or there's renovation and it's like a disaster and you don't have an office or whatever, like you literally can just not do anything and it's okay. It takes a while to get to that point. And I think you still have to have like I said, I did a ton of work for the weeks leading up to my time off, and that was how I did it. And I'm gonna do it again. It turns out I like doing a ton of work and like really hammering myself and like being super productive, and then like completely checking out where, I'm going to have like a small laptop with me. So it'll be uncomfortable. I won't be able to do anything like, super intense. And I think it'll be great. So anything else to add about the, passive income is kind of real?
I think like for me, I will say, when I first started, and I always heard about you hear about Tim Ferriss 4-Hour Work Week, and you're like, that's BS. With my main website, that's not BS. I could probably do it in 2 hours, honestly. I really don't do much because it's all outsourced. But I remember in the beginning, when I first started, I was working 10, 12, 14-hour days consistently every single day, Monday through Sunday. I never experienced burnout necessarily, because for me, this is, and I think Doug, you're probably the same. It's hard to say, but it's like kind of a hobby. So like it's not, that's the thing, is that when I worked for other people, it was work. It was something that was like, well, I have to do this. Now it's like a hobby to where I'm actually taking on projects that I'm interested in, and I can control my direction of what I'm doing. So that's a huge, huge thing. But yeah, when I started, it was like, 10, 12, 14-hour days, and I was fine with it. My wife wasn't, girlfriend at the time. But yeah, like now, I won't say it's completely passive, but now, maybe a 4 or 5 hour day is fine. That's about what I need. And there's some days that I put in longer, like lately with this malware stuff, I've been putting in some long hours. But like, yeah, usually like that's fine. But that's the thing. People hear that, and then in the beginning they kind of slow down. It's like, no. In the beginning, that's when you really, really accelerate. And I think you can get to the point of passive income when, personally, this is my feeling, when you have, you've built up enough content to where the website pays for its own bills, and then probably pays a little bit more, and you have things outsourced and you're investing in content heavily. But yeah, like in the beginning, there's a lot of work that gets there, but you really can. I mean, we've taken plenty of vacations, and what we do on vacation, because my wife works in internet marketing area, she's like a social media influencer. What we do on vacation, we just have a rule: 1 hour a day in the morning, like right when you wake up, we can get on the computer, we could do what we got to do, check emails, make sure everything's good, turn it off, and then go enjoy the day. And I'm fine with that. I don't like fully disconnecting. I know for some people that's probably refreshing. I actually don't fully like that, because then I get nervous about what's going on. And, I always have emails coming in. Plus, I always have to go to my computer 1 hour a day anyway, because I have my my courses that I teach still. So like, it just all works that way. So yeah, it is kind of real, but it takes a lot to get to that point for sure.
Cool. And one thing I'll mention is it's kind of funny, because like right now, like I was getting a couple texts, my phone was vibrating and I heard it. Yep. My virtual assistant was letting me know that my students in my course can't access the videos. Obviously a very important thing. So like in those situations, right, is exactly what you're talking about, where it's like something could go terribly wrong, where like people are counting on me, and we both have like pretty lean teams, right? So we don't have like someone working full time monitoring this stuff. And like, if it happens on the weekend, right, I can't expect my assistant to like check that out, solve it, blah, blah, blah. So like, yeah, so there are instances where it's like, it's maybe a little risky. So it's always good to kind of check in.
Yeah. Just keep a pulse on things. I think, just make sure all is good,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think, let's see, one of my other notes that I have here is like, if it is more passive, like generally it's more set up ahead of time. So I was talking about that earlier. Like right before I moved, a lot of setup to make sure things were going to run smoothly. Things were fine. This coming, trip that I'm going to take pretty soon, it's going to be a little bit longer. And I'm actually trying to set the business up to grow while I'm gone. So that's even more work, and even like now that I've experienced it some, so I hope it works. I mean, it may not, but the point is I'm doing bigger stuff, more interesting things. So like I'm all over the place, a lot of tangents, but you were talking about this sort of being a hobby. Like we enjoy the work we're doing, maybe not the malware stuff. I mean, we don't want to deal with that.
Hey, you know what though? No, I did not enjoy the malware, but I did enjoy learning about the malware, because now I can actually, if this ever happens again to me, I know what to do. If it happens to someone else, I can give them advice, it's a good learning experience. And it's a good mistake on my behalf to learn, hey, stupid, make sure that you always have some type of, plugin that's actually providing defense, even on your small websites. That's a good learning experience. So no, I didn't enjoy that. And I didn't enjoy the lost sleep, but I enjoyed learning about it. And now I know.
Yeah, so. And now you're out the other side, and you're like, okay, we made it through.
You should have seen me this morning when I got, because my other developer couldn't figure this out. He couldn't figure it out. He tried all these different things. Nothing was working. So this morning it was like, oh, thank goodness. But one of the things I want to say that I think is a good point that you just mentioned to this, and kind of adding on to it, is you just mentioned how like if it's the long way and taking things the long way and making a lot of time and doing a lot of work and doing things that competitors aren't doing. And, whether it be like collecting data that they're not doing and put it in the actual work, or making it look better, or, really focusing hard on backlinks and creating good content. I think a big part of that is that it makes it more secure. It makes it a better business that not if, but when you have competitors show up, they're not just going to be able to quickly and easily do something and then kick you right off the top spot. I think that that's a really important thing. So if something's hard and you're like, man, should I really do this? This is going to be a lot of work. Yes, because that's what's going to work. That always ends up working. And then your competitors see it and they're like, oh my gosh. I actually remember I did and I won't even mention the product, but I did a review on a product and everything. And I put it on my YouTube channel. And when I did that, an individual actually commented. It was pretty funny. He commented and said, God, this is the most thorough review I've ever seen. I feel like a really lazy affiliate now. And I was cracking up because that was someone just saying, and it was like an hour-long tutorial, super long, super in-depth. And this individual was just like, I don't want, maybe they could have matched it, but he was just, or she was just like, I don't want to match this. So that's a good way to build a moat. That's a competitive advantage if you put that much effort into something. And I remember that thing took me hours, 12 hours to do. But when you do it, that's a good moat to have, and it's really defensive, and other people don't want to do it. So
very good point. And brings me to point number 6. There is a shortcut, and this is a little bit of a secret, and it's the long way, right? So basically, there's not really a shortcut, and you highlighted it perfectly, Ron. It's like if you could do something easily, if you could do it really quickly and it was easy and it was cheap, or even if it was expensive, but you could execute it quickly and money was the only hurdle, then someone could just replace you just as fast as you got there.
Yep.
So when it comes down to it, most people don't want to have, a sand castle, right on the shore, right by the water, that's just going to get washed away as soon as the next wave comes in. They want to have something that they could count on for a few years. And just through that, it's going to take longer, right? It's going to take longer. It may not be the most direct way. And I'm seeing it in multiple areas as I'm slowly growing Niche Site Project. I've done a bunch of guest posts in the past. Everyone said, do guest posts, get links, create good content, start a podcast, start a YouTube channel, and do all this stuff. Nothing really seems to have made a big difference. There's no one inflection point. It's just been super slow and super steady over, 5+ years. So there's really no shortcut. And now that I'm, over the hump over, the first 1,000 days or so, I'm like, this is good. I don't want to take any shortcut. I'd rather have this pretty defensible, like you said, moat around what I'm doing. Someone can't just copy exactly what I'm doing. They just can't do it. They can, come around and do some similar stuff, but I've put in way more time. I have so many videos on YouTube. It's crazy. Some of them are terrible, but I have a lot. Yeah. So there's really no shortcut. And if you're looking for a shortcut, you can be replaced so fast. So don't look for a shortcut.
Yeah. And that's a big thing with all those, I was just talking about my wife with the Shopify thing. It's if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. And the truth is, if it is that easy, everybody will do it. And then it's done. That's what's going to happen. But yeah, I completely agree. And like I said, I think the biggest takeaway there is just to put in that extra work that other people aren't willing to put in. Specifically, I find this with backlinking, which I'm actually a fan with backlinking. A lot of people don't want to do backlinking. And I know Income School talks about oh, we built sites and we didn't do any backlinking. And that's the dream. Everybody wants that. And I mean, you probably can succeed with that. But I've found that usually doing that will accelerate things. And a lot of people don't want to do that. So I do that. And it makes it more defensible, more secure, makes it more difficult for competitors to catch up with me because they're like, oh, I really don't want to do this. And I'm like, I love doing this. Let's go. Because other people aren't doing it. When they're zigging, I'm zagging. That's kind of the thing I go with. So.
Yep. And I think you brought up a perfect very specific example, and I see this over and over again. I mean, people don't want a link build, and they're like, I will use the keyword golden ratio. I know other people are using it successfully, and I don't want a link build. And I'm like, why not? Like, if it's going well, it could be going great. So, I mean, you can get away with not building any links. And if you put it, if you put in enough time and effort and you're ranking for the right things, natural links will come, but it is much, much slower. And by the way, building your own links and putting some effort into promotion and getting the word out there, that'll help you get links naturally. Because if you're not ranking for anything, no one's going to find your site. No one's going to link to you. But what happens sometimes is like someone, especially like a writer on a bigger site, they will start linking to you and they'll like your site. They'll look at your site before they look for others. So you may find that you're all of a sudden getting several links from the Wirecutter and you're like, oh, wow, that writer is reading my content. And you wouldn't expect it. You can't really like manufacture that, but you can help, get up there in the SERPs and rank higher so that you actually show up. So when someone's looking for a reference for like, let's say the best hair replacement program or something, maybe you show up. All right. Yeah. So, and I'm going to be doing a review on hair replacement pretty soon. So I'm just kidding. I'm not.
I was like kind of laughing because I didn't know if you were telling the truth. I'm like, no, that's a good point. Like that's actually something with my my main, like one of my bread and butter sites now is I get a ton of organic links, and the reason is because I put in all the effort to build links in the beginning, and then now I'm showing up at the top of Google, and I'll randomly look like once a week, and I'll have like a few new links, and it's just my website's mostly informational, but like people see that, they see a good answer to the question, they can't find it anywhere else. So then they link to you. Backlinking, it's just one of those things that people hate doing. And I love that people hate doing it because I like doing it. And that makes you successful just if you're willing to do it. So,
yep, I agree 100%. So quick recap. Number one, making money online is conceptually easy, but probably harder than you think. Number two is you got to be patient and you need to be consistent. Number three is there are bad people out there trying to sell you garbage. All right. So look out for them. They're all over the place in every industry. Number four is passive income is not real. Number five, passive income is real, but you gotta get there. You gotta earn it. And
it's then kind of real.
What's that?
Kind of real.
It's kind of real. Yeah. A little bit, but not exactly. So the last one, maybe the most important, there is a shortcut and it is the long way. Don't try and take a shortcut. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Yep. Agreed.
Anything else, Ron? Any final parting words here?
No. Thanks for having me back as usual. Appreciate it. Always love being here. If you guys have questions, let me know, commenting on the Doug's YouTube channel and that sort of thing, or letting him know, email or whatever. I'm sure he'll relay it back to me, but always appreciate it.
Yep. And I was going to say, don't email me for Ron's questions, but you could go to the 1 Hour Professor. I don't want to be a, go-between.
Okay. Yeah. If you
so
don't
just go to 1 Hour Professor.
Fine. Yeah, that works too. Yeah. So 1hourprofessor.com. You can see that income reports up there. I share all that information too. So
cool. Thanks, Ron. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Doug.
Of course, thanks again to Ron. I really appreciate him taking the time and chatting with me about making money online. And I think I'm going to have him on at least a few more times as a guest host. It's really fun to talk shop with Ron. It's cool because he comes at things from a different direction than I do. I mean, we have different kinds of sites where I mainly do affiliate marketing and he mainly does like ad-based informational sites. So a little bit different, and it's pretty cool. We obviously have like much different experience as well as we, had our corporate careers previously. So a couple things I was thinking about as I was typing up the show notes and stuff for this episode. Number one is around like the shortcut. There's no shortcut. The shortcut is like taking the long route and taking your time. And I think it's really important to note that there's, at least in my experience, there's never been like an inflection point where everything changed. So it's just been like a slow grind, very slowly growing on like the blog, right? Niche Site Project, or on YouTube. Again, very slow, multi-year process. The podcast, again, it's growing very slowly. And, part of it makes sense. You have to develop skills in a certain area. And then, the other thing that maybe is not obvious is you think, especially in this, sort of ecosystem of social media, that if you go viral, that, you're just, everything's going to pop, everything's going to change. And while number one, I haven't had anything go viral. So maybe that's my problem. But I think more realistically, there's not really going to be an inflection point like that for most people. Yes, you can find exceptions and examples where someone was doing something for years, they had something go viral, and then they had a big following after that. So, I could see those examples, of course, but for most people, you're not going to have any viral situation. Nothing is going to be amazing, and you're just going to have to grind it out. That is just the way it is. There are countless examples over and over again in many different industries, whether it's, blogging or stand-up comedy or acting or whatever. Like, there's many years of struggle and it looks like nothing's going to happen ever. And then it does. And usually it's through perseverance. As an aside for that, I think it's also important to realize that it's not just, perseverance and blindly doing the same thing over and over again. It is through like evaluating what you're doing, what is working and what is not working, so that you're hopefully constantly improving, or at least trying things that are different. So now, I'm talking myself into a circle here. You don't want to like skip around and try too many things, but the point is, like, if I am trying to do, let's do the podcast, for example, if I'm trying to, build a podcast and build a following via a podcast, and I'm doing solo episodes where I'm just reading a blog post over and over again, and that's not working, well, I should probably try something a little bit different, like maybe interviewing people who have a following, and then maybe they can share it around, right? So trying different tactics and ideas and strategies within, one discipline, we'll say. So you should try things that are different and see how they work while you're evaluating what is working and what isn't working, so you can slowly improve over time. That's the point. You should slowly improve over time, and that is okay. You don't have to like be an expert out of the gates. No one is. You just have to keep making an improvement over time. And the good part is, if you have a long enough timeline, let's say you're making 1% improvements. I'm just making up this example, but if you're making like 1% improvements each week for, 1 to 2 or say 5 years or something, like, you can be pretty good at something if you just put the time in. You can be pretty bad when you start. As long as you're making small improvements over time, you should be okay. Now, the cool part is sometimes you won't make like a 1% improvement. Sometimes you can get a lot better as you, overcome plateaus and that sort of thing. But the point is, there's no real shortcut. There's the long route with slow improvement. And you may think, hey, if I could just get a guest post on blah, blah, blah site, it will change everything. Most of the time, it will not. Most of the time, it may be just a little a blip. If you're looking at the analytics, for example, it may just be a little blip, and then maybe it's going to drop back down to where it was. You never know, but you have to keep trying. Maybe one of those, right? Maybe one of those guest posts will be the inflection point. Maybe I haven't hit that yet. And before we jet for today, I want to remind you that you can contact me. You can ask questions. You can give me ideas for shows that you want to hear. So you can send me an email at feedback@doug.show. That's it, just feedback@doug.show. Or if you have a great speaking voice, you can leave me a voicemail. The number's in the show notes, or if you happen to be able to write this down, it's 406-813-0613. And you can just call, leave a message. It helps maybe if you write out your question ahead of time so you know what you're going to say and it doesn't ramble on too long. But it'd be great if you left a voicemail. That would be super cool. And we're looking forward to, getting other questions for Ron and myself for, future episodes where he's the guest host. So we'll catch you next time and have a great day. And I'm back just for one more second here. I was going to say it's funny when I'm doing these episodes because I want to tell like a few little stories here and there, but as time goes on, I actually, I'm getting old apparently. I don't remember the stories that I've told, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be repeating some of them from time to time. So I don't have a story right now, but I mean, that is my story that I forgot the stories that I've told. Maybe it'll be good if I can keep track, but at this point we're coming up on like 50 episodes and part of it is just me talking to myself. And this is that part of it, of the episode. So anyway, if it's the first time that you're listening to the show, this is weird, but thank you for listening. I do appreciate it. And one cool thing that you can do is let other people know about the show. So, sometimes ask for a review or something like that. But really, I just want more people to find the show. So if you know someone who may be interested in some of the topics that I talk about, then send them a link, send them over to doug.show and, let them know that they should be listening to this show. And I would really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.